Prime Minister Narendra Modi has met his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif in Paris on the sidelines of the climate summit. Now, the two leaders shook hands ahead of that big climate conference. They sat down, as you can see in these pictures, for a fairly animated discussion. Now, many are speculating this could be an icebreaker between India and Pakistan. The two countries have been at loggerheads over Pakistan-sponsored terror in India. But there was a brief handshake. Will this conversation lead to anything more concrete remains the big question. But this is their first meeting since the UFA agreement of July 2015. Since then, talks between the two countries have virtually broken down at least twice. The NSA level meeting, the foreign secretary level meetings, they were cancelled within a year. It's not clear whether the two leaders will hold a formal meeting once again on the sidelines of the climate conference. I want to bring in India Today's Smita Sharma and Maha Siddiqui for more on this. Smita, from what you're picking up from your source in the Ministry of External Affairs and the Prime Minister's office, was this just a formal handshake and animated discussion on climate, or could it lead to something more concrete?
Well, sources tight-lipped at the moment, Gaurav, but when two top leaders meet, there could always be that, element of surprise or the degree of political push, given the fact that for India, remember for Narendra Modi, the Bihar elections have been taken care of, where of course his party did not fare well at all. But having said that, there is at least a window of opportunity till the next assembly elections comes in, and perhaps there is increased domestic compulsions once again on the government to engage or not engage with Pakistan. There's also that considerable amount of international pressure that has of course been playing out, be it the Americans, the Britishers, or even the United Nations. In fact, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who has time and again said that India and Pakistan need to engage bilaterally, even when Pakistan of course went all the way to UNSC, Nawaz Sharif himself complaining that India does not talk to us. But both sides are completely knotted in ties at this point in time. They are in a sort of a situational fix, both accusing each other of dealing with preconditions, and both saying that we can only talk without preconditions. But we'll have to see.
Stay with me for a moment. Let's listen into Shiv Sena's Arvind Sawant. So nothing more substantive. The Shiv Sena says you've met on the road, so you've shaken hands, you've talked. That's about it. Maha, Smita was saying that, there is a lot of world pressure, whether it's the US, the UK or the UN saying the two must engage bilaterally. But is the pressure only on India to remain engaged, or do these world powers also mount pressure on Pakistan to stop terror first?
Well, there is a certain amount of pressure, as Smita was mentioning, and like you are mentioning, on both the sides to continue talking, because internationally the sentiment is that it is only through dialogue that the situation can improve, and we have seen a chill in the relationship between the two countries ever since UFA. Yes, on the question of terrorism, it is questionable as to whether that same amount of pressure is built internationally on Pakistan or not to stop terror that is emanating from its soil and directed towards India. We have seen continuous ceasefire violations from Pakistani side. India has even summoned the Pakistan High Commissioner once to place a complaint with the Pakistani High Commission about the civilian deaths that have taken place because of the ceasefire violations. But we haven't seen any improvement. After that, when we saw an agreement in UFA that the NSAs will meet and discuss terror, we had seen Pakistan then attaching the Kashmir issue as well. And because of that, the NSA level talks also derailed. So there has been a flip-flop on part of Pakistan.
So Sitaram Yechuri, left leaders saying, if these talks lead to a thaw, it is a positive development. If it stops terror, it is a positive development. But both the left and the Congress attacking the BJP government's double standards. And Smita, does this smack of double standards of the BJP government? Talks start, then they stop, then they start again, then they stop again. There are allegations. Manish Tiwari was telling me there is a lack of consistency in this government's Pakistan policy, Smita.
Well, it's like showing the mirror to both the sides. People, when they are, of course, in the opposition, their stands differ when they come to power. And if it's double standards of the BJP, it's also double standards of the Congress, because they also, at the end of the day, were some, while in government, would have favored talks eventually. So I think it's more to do with geopolitical compulsions, really, because it's not like the terror export has stopped just because you have stopped talking to Pakistan. But what increasingly looks possible now, Gaurav, is that eventually, as and when India and Pakistan decide to take forward this dialogue, perhaps we will see that again happening on either a third country or the Indian side actually going over to Islamabad, because for Pakistan to go on the record knowing, of course, its political compulsions and say that yes, our leaders will come to Delhi and will not engage with either the Hurriyat or will not rake up Kashmir is going to be very, very difficult. So then what do you see as the next best possible option? Perhaps a third meeting, even if the cricket doesn't happen on a third venue, maybe a meeting happening on the third venue like we see right now in Paris.
Okay, so is that the road ahead, Maha? Because India so far has been very consistent that Pakistan cannot talk to Hurriyat ahead of talks with Government of India.
Absolutely, and it was made amply clear when the meeting between the foreign secretaries was derailed earlier this year. India had made it amply clear that there is going to be no talks between the two sides if Pakistan decides to come with an agenda set in its mind, talk to Hurriyat before even the official talks. So clearly that was the first signal that was given to Pakistan. But after that, when we saw that meeting in Ufa, and as Smita was mentioning, very interestingly, in a third country, yet again this time in Paris, in a third country, talks never materialize when the two countries are talking either in New Delhi or in Islamabad. But these talks or thawing of the ice, if as I can put it the way Sitaram Yechuri says, is only happening in a third country. So we saw an agreement in Ufa, but that again did not materialize when it came to the NSA level talks because of the attachment of the Kashmir issue to the terror issue also, and Pakistan insisting that it will discuss Kashmir. As Smita was rightly pointing out, Gaurav, it will be very difficult for Pakistan to explain to its own constituency why they will not discuss the issue of Kashmir and go ahead and only discuss terror. And that is why Nawaz Sharif had received a lot of flack after Ufa from his own constituency in Pakistan, and that is why we have seen the flip-flop.
And these are pictures that are coming in live of all the heads of state and government meeting for that photo op, United Nations Conference on Climate Change 2015. So the photo has been taken, 150 plus heads of state and government. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expected to spearhead India's role as far as clean energy is concerned. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also talking about climate justice. He's talking about bringing together, along with Francois Hollande, the French president, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch an international alliance of solar-rich countries of the tropics. That is huge. And also, along with both the United States and China, global innovation in climate change. That is something where India is big. But for the moment, Smita, Nawaz Sharif and Modi, now some indications are this was a very, very short pull aside, barely lasted, some minutes. So the focus, what is India's focus when we speak to Pakistan? Is it climate change? Is it terror? Is it Kashmir?
Well, I wish I was a fly on the wall, Gaurav. I guess we'll have to wait a little bit, because when two leaders really talk to each other, it's not even like a delegation level talk that happens. So people are tight-lipped about what could have possibly sort of, transpired between the two of them. But having said that, there are a couple of issues, of course. There is no dearth of issues for both sides to talk about. Even on climate change, these two countries at the moment in that COP21 summit, where remember Narendra Modi has been, of course, advocating that SARC satellite to be launched by India, and incidentally, in fact, the next SARC summit is to be hosted by Islamabad, which is scheduled as of now for later this year. But we do not know really in the build-up to it what's the kind of atmosphere that we'll see. There will be that larger question whether Narendra Modi will actually travel to Islamabad if that SARC summit really happens at all in Islamabad. So these are questions there, even in terms of terror, where Paris, these talks are happening in the shadow of those 13/11 attacks, where so many lives were lost. And for a lot of these Western countries, France is not looking at EU or the UK for alliances. It's really looking at US and the Russia for the fight against ISIS. And where India does not militarily contribute to either Afghanistan or to the Middle East, perhaps the Americans would like that maybe if Afghanistan is stabilized, if the NATO is in a better position, they'll be able to focus more on this war against ISIS. And for that, they would want India and Pakistan that they should sit down on the dialogue table to keep borders calm.
And in all of this, perhaps a different approach, Maha, would be India insisting, instead of just telling India to talk to Pakistan, tell Pakistan to stop spreading terror in India. And that is where we will see, Maha, if there is a genuine change in India's Pakistan policy, or Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is he different from heads of state and government in the past in India, or is this more of the same, Maha?
Well, so India has, in fact, over the past 1.5 years, taken a stand on that, considering that it has made it amply clear that terror must stop before any kind of talks actually materialize between the two sides. Also remember, Gaurav, that there is a meeting for which the Pakistani side has invited External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, the Heart of Asia conference that is supposed to be held on the 9th of December. And India is yet to take a call. Every time it's asked whether Sushma Swaraj will go, the Ministry of External Affairs says, we haven't taken a call yet, and it's just about less than 2 weeks left for that meeting. So clearly India is trying to give indications to Pakistan clearly that it does not want to hold any concrete talks till terror stops. But there is international pressure that talks must go on despite everything, and that is really the catch-22 for India.
Mani pa ma ga, ni pa ma ga, sa ni pa ma ni sa pa sa. Jahan tak yaad aati rahegi.